Welcome, everybody, to this Drive Summit podcast. I'm your host, Alex Hanna, and with me today I have Morgan Drivas. Morgan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. My name is Morgan Drivas. I'm a VDC Manager
Nice.
it's close. Everyone says that, at JTM Construction. We're a mid-sized GC in the Seattle area. I actually live in Tennessee right now, but we just closed on the house yesterday, so we're excited to be moving to
Whoop.
Boise. Well, not Boise, sorry, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Um, but it'll be fun. We'll be back on the Pacific Northwest. We're pretty excited about that.
That's
Um,
super exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And I've been really lucky in my career to have found BIM because, there's not very many other jobs like this that have like the ability to be remote. Um, I think a hybrid is great for that. So I'm excited to be a little bit closer to my GC.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what's some latest tech you've been using or seeing lately? I noticed you just introduced Revizto at JTM. I saw that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we've actually been using it for almost 3 years. Well, 4 years. Yeah, but we just did a Revizto conference.
Mm-hmm.
James and I, or James Harbin, he's our director of construction technology. We spoke at the Rev Up conference in Denver back in February. But to get back to your question, we've been using Revizto for almost 4 years, and it was a little bit of a journey. But I am a diehard fan of Revizto. I could never go back to Navisworks, and I always tell people that it is definitely a game changer software in the coordination space. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's one of those tools that every GC out there running coordination should be using. It's a great company to partner up with because they're there for support, um, and really good at building community, which I've appreciated. The conference was great for that, where you get to actually meet and talk to the people developing the tool and tell them your ideas. Because, all of us have ideas of what we want to improve with software. Like, you're never going to find a quiet BIM manager about that, right? So,
I want mine
um,
to do this. Yeah.
yeah. But the thing is, you could submit a request, and they actually are working on stuff like that. So, been a big fan for sure.
That's really awesome. I'm going to be working with using the software this year for the first time. And I'm really excited about it. And now that you mentioned that, I'm going to probably throw some ideas their way as far as
Yeah,
tools to use.
right. I mean, they went through a big phase. So there was Revizto 4, and that used Navisworks as its federated file. You're still doing that, and then you're exporting it over
Mm.
to Revizto. And same with Clashes. It was just kind of a bridge into their Unity-based software. But then they came out with Revizto 5, which allowed you to do the direct export from Revit into Revizto. So you're not having to do, 45 NWCs for what we do. We do a lot of towers. So that's a lot of time of just computing and waste, just to upload, explode, sorry. Uh, what am I trying to say? Upload,
Upload,
export.
import, export. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I'm mixing those two up. But saves you so much time there. You can set it up on a schedule. And then they came out with the Clash automation, which to me changed my experience like day and night. I mean, instead of taking 8 hours to run Clashes, I average about an hour. And
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing it any faster than like a couple hours. Oh man, I'm excited now.
Yeah, because I mean, it used to be like, okay, everyone had to have their models uploaded Monday, and then they would keep working on them Tuesday, and then you'd run coordination on Wednesday. But now it's like, okay, I'm going to give people a full week to do all of that, and then, I'll get up early the meeting of the coordination, or the morning of the coordination meeting, and then run Clash. Everyone can see that report an hour before, and by 10 a.m. we're having our coordination meeting. It just gives them an extra day to be productive versus an extra day of me doing Clashes for things that they may have already just changed. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely ran into that in the past where it's like, I've changed that. Like, I know I fixed that and it's still in the report. I don't know what's going on. And that's Navisworks. Obviously, Navis is still, the 900-pound gorilla in the room. It's still the main one that everyone uses, and I'm excited that something's breaking the space and is not, challenging Autodesk in general.
Yeah.
There's a lot of software out there that does a lot of 3D software that's capable of doing a lot of stuff that Revit does or any other Autodesk software. I like to see challenge because if everyone's doing the same thing, then it's like, where's the growth, right? How do I learn from other people if I'm always doing the one thing? So it's exciting to see. Real quick, you touched on you do a lot of towers.
Yes.
I want to know real quick your experience of working on the first like skyscraper you did. Like, was it awesome? Was it heartbreaking? Was it like want to make your mind explode because it was hard work? Like, what was that feeling going through that?
Yeah, so my first one, I never done any coordination at all. I was actually just a BIM detailer, and I started my own small BIM consulting company because my husband was in the army, so I had to move with him, and I tried to maintain some of the clients I had before of just like being supportive and doing the modeling. And then just through connections, JTM reached out and said, hey, this lady is going on maternity leave, like, can you fill in for them? And I was like, sure, let's do it. Let's figure out how to run clashes. So I had to teach myself on, and this was Navisworks days, like everything about that. And it just felt like it was taking so long. It was so brutal. That model, it was dual towers. I think there was 38 levels on each tower, plus parking down below, and condos, like residential. So a whole other challenge. It seriously would take like 2 hours, I swear, to open up the model, and then an additional 10 to actually run full coordination on that. And it was rough. But it felt like you just learned really quickly on a job like that.
Oh yeah, what was the end result? Okay, you finished. You got through that mountain of work, the massive file size. Did you ever get a chance to see it?
I actually never got a chance to do that. I got to see the podium, but I never got a chance to go up in the towers, and it's very silly of me. But what's crazy is that someone just went in there and vandalized and cut off fire sprinkler heads in one of the units. So there's a huge problem where it caused a bunch of flooding. And so our company's going back in and doing that remediation. I was like, maybe this is my chance.
It's always really exciting to see the final product. The module factory I worked at, I got to see every module come through, and like you occasionally get to see, like I just passed a hotel that I did actually this past couple weeks ago. I was like, oh yeah, I was part of that, right? And I know I can go through that entire hotel and know where every stud is and why an outlet's in a certain spot because the stud pack was here, and that's the exciting part is going in there and being like, what's a Minority Report where he opens the big window and he's doing this. I feel like I could do that in one of those buildings that I've like had a lot of work to do in. It's really exciting.
I think about that a lot, about how if you go into a building like that, I think about it from a security perspective. Like, who else has all this information? So I've been really trying to like dig into that because, with some of the things that happen in modern society, like how much information you can get in the hands of the wrong person. Stadiums, all these jobs that are just kind of sending BIM files around, and I'm like, I hope that there's some security practices to this.
I just thought about Ocean's 11, and there's a part in there when he has to go up and get the blueprints.
Yeah.
And he gets one page. You know that? He gets like 1 or 2 pages and rolls it up. I'm like, there's no way. Anyways, imagine if he got a file of the model or something, was able to open it up and stuff. Like, the dude took a lot more than he did.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was down a tangent a little bit, but it's just something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I was like, wow, there's just so much information, which is great for us as we're building it. But I guess, yeah.
So what got you down that security mindset?
I'd say my husband, he was an Army guy, and so he's taught me a lot about, personal safety. And now that I have kids too, I feel that even more so, that Tiger Mom kind of like natural feeling. So I just that, and then, seeing churches and stuff like that, there's a lot to um, to be wary of, So I always think like, oh man, is this like whose hands is this getting into with all these data breaches and stuff like that?
That's really interesting. I never really thought about it that way. But now, we live in a scary world now. So, yeah, I guess it's good to keep that in mind. I'm trying to think of companies out there that are currently helping with that security data. And I don't know what the names of them are, but I'm sure I've heard of like two or three in the past now that are like third party pass-arounds. Like it lives in your ACC account, but it's under this protection of some kind. And then
Yeah.
you need access into it like an authenticator almost.
I would see that we don't really do much for public work, but just even the small like pursuits of some of the like Port of Seattle stuff, they do take some additional measures, which I love to see. Um, but it's kind of funny what a tangent I went down here.
It's all
Um,
right.
I would say though, like I did have a second experience with a dual tower. I guess that's the thing in Seattle is everyone's doing dual towers. So we had this other biggest job JTM's ever done. I think it was like 400 million at the end of it. It was a hotel,
Wow.
um, residence, condos, conference. This huge project in Bellevue and very like luxury space, and it was pretty crazy to go in there and see that in real life. But what always surprises me the most are the garages. Like you see what that giant duck actually looks like in person. That's where I'm always like, wow,
Yeah, you're
that's
definitely
cool
one
that
of
I
those
could
people
be a part of
walking
that.
into. You're walking into like the Costco and looking at all the MEPs and stuff. Once you get into anyone listening, if you ever get into BIM, you will look at every ceiling. It's gonna be a
Yes.
weird thing. Your phone's gonna be full of pictures of weird things that you're like, why did they do that? It's so silly and so stupid. And that's the old adage of we'll fix it on site. You'll see it
Right.
everywhere. I'm
Yes.
about to start a Twitter or something that just shows all these pictures of random things that are you're just walking by and you see it. Reddit. I'm gonna start a Reddit. There you go.
That's a great idea. There's some bad garages out there. Like
Oh
you can
yeah.
tell the garages, I always feel like, I mean, it's the most like they're not covering it up in the ceilings,
hmm
right? So I always notice that. I'm like, oh, it's,
The worst is when you go into a bar and it got retrofitted, but it wasn't done like in the best way.
yes. They paint it though
So
to try to blend it all in.
it's either all black or the same color as whatever's next to it. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
that's great.
I'm like, normal
Okay.
people don't think about this.
Yeah, no, no, they don't. No, we're all a bunch of weird people.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I want to hear your story. I want to hear how you got into it, how you fell into it, what made you look into it, construction. I want to hear all that stuff, even like your own endeavor that you embarked on and how that went.
Yeah, so crazy story. Well, not really. I mean, to set the foundation, I am a fifth generation builder. So, my dad was a superintendent. His dad, just like a whole trade line of family members in construction. And
hmm
so, as a little kid, I got to go to my dad's job sites. And the one I always remember is he built a Little Caesars. And we got to go make pizza when it opened. So, like, that was my experience as a little kid. And I was always, as I got older, interested in business and management and stuff like that. But, what's a business management degree? Like, it just seems
Yeah.
so generalized. Like, what does that even do? What jobs open up to me? And I had I was like right about to be done with my AA. I went to play college softball at a community college in Tucson, Arizona, and had a great experience. And I remember sitting there, I think I was at a Barnes& and Noble. I don't know why I can remember that so specifically, but um, I was asking my little brother, who's 2 years younger than me, like, what are you gonna do? Like, he was just about to get into his freshman year, and then he told me construction management, and I was like, oh, I didn't really think about that. I mean, it sounds a little bit better than just a regular management degree. I know I can connect to my dad with that, and so as a prerequisite to the class, I had to do a CAD class. Um,
hmm
so I took a SketchUp class and I loved it. It was so fun. We did, design competitions and things like that. And I was like, I think I want to be an architect. My dad's like, you're not gonna make any money, and you just you're gonna be stuck doing details for 10 years. And I was like, oh, well, I want to make a lot
Yeah.
of money, so I'll go construction management. So I got into the program at UW, or University of Washington, and got an internship at a GC called Lee Critcher Lewis in Seattle. And so the summer before I started school, I was interning as a project engineer. And they had asked me, I was in pre-con, like, hey, do this takeoff. And so in my head, I was like, I'll just model it in SketchUp, and then it's going to tell me the area. They're like, oh, you can do that? That's interesting. But they had a good VDC department of like, I think there was 5 people at that point, which this was 2016. So
Yep. It's still
pretty,
kind of coming of age. Yeah. Yeah. Not a lot of
yeah,
people. They're still in AutoCAD, maybe 3D CAD at that point.
yeah. And I was impressed though that they had really invested a lot into this, and it's and what's funny is that I decided I wanted to be done with UW and I want to just jump right into VDC. And they were like, okay, sure. I was really surprised, but I think part of it was that it's kind of a fun fact to me. I was an MMA fighter at the time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, you missed a part there.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna talk about this in a minute.
Okay.
MMA fighter.
Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming karate and all that stuff growing up.
So
Jiu-jitsu?
no, I started kickboxing to get in shape for my for going to play college softball. And so I just started training it ended up being an MMA gym. I thought it was kickboxing, but I didn't know at the time. And then I just kind of continued training, and over time started having fights. And I had kind of a dream at the same time. I was like, oh, I want to become a professional MMA fighter, and I can't have this job and go to school at UW. And I was like, well, I think I'll just drop out of UW and see if they'd be willing to take me on and just train me into the VDC department. And it worked out.
Okay,
So
that's awesome. I'm thinking
yeah.
new profile picture, all cornrows. The
Yeah, that was
being
me.
VDC MMA fighter. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I always attribute like some of the skills I feel like there's a lot of parallels, and just creative problem solving is what MMA is at the core of it. You learn skills and tools, and then you apply them, and you just problem solve. And I think a lot of us do that as BIM coordinators, managers, and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I think there's you make a very good point. I mean, I've watched MMA and stuff growing up. I'm not into it now as much as I was, but yeah, problem solving, like you said, discipline and training.
Yep.
Like if you want to be good in what you're doing here with BIM VDC, you got to know the ins and outs of the software you're using, or the specific discipline in the software that you're using. I like to say that a lot because like you can be a specialist, but not a specialist of a software. I'll tell you that. No, if someone tells me they know everything about Revit and can teach me everything from the back of their hand without looking at a book, I don't believe them. There's just way too much.
Yeah.
Way too much. No, that's actually really, really cool. And no, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of
Did
my
you win any
pitch. I didn't really win any money. I sold tickets. I stopped when I was 5-0 amateur, and went through a 5-year layoff, and then just recently kind of got back into training again.
So wait, you're undefeated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had 2 championship belts, amateur, and one of the girls I fought and beat, she's fighting the UFC now. Her name's Lupita Godinez. Yeah. I was really good at it. It just didn't serve me. It's a lot of punishment to your body and to your head. I mean, there was times I'd be trying to like work on a screen all day and have just massive headaches. So I gave that sport up, but I still kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, huge accomplishment to you. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your story. Okay, so you quit MMA, you quit UW, you're now at the GC.
Yeah. Well, I did do some overlap. I still continued to train, and I was at the GC just being a BIM detailer. Um, and then, yeah, so this was when my husband got stationed in Georgia, so I moved to go live with him. And I wanted to continue my career, and so I was just like, hey, could I continue to finish this project out? So it just kind of started out as like a natural thing. It's like, I'll buy the laptop from you, and I'll just finish this job out for you. So, we'll just do it like kind of hourly, and then, met a few other clients and was doing that for a little bit, for probably like a year and a half, and then JTM approached me, and I worked for them as a consultant for about 6 months, and then they hired me full time after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's everyone's story is so unique, and I love hearing those bits of like it wasn't just architecture and BIM VDC the entire time. There's one person on here, drawing a blank right now. But anyways, he wrote a report when in 8th grade there was going to be an electrician, and that's what he did. He was just an electrician.
Wow.
Brian Dilly. He wrote a report in 8th grade, and he's an electrician now at Lake Erie Electric, and that's his story, and I thought it was fantastic. I was like, you wrote one book, and then you were set in stone. Someone wanted to be an actor and thought the acoustics were bad in one of the buildings, so he became an architect. It's so crazy how people get into this field not traditional way.
Yeah.
Some people, go right from the trades into here, which is by far probably the best if you want to be an MEP or a coordinator of any kind. Get
Yeah.
into trades. I think like people like who got into it early that were like I wasn't in trades. My dad, blue collar HVAC guy. I did some work with him, but I wasn't out there doing it. Right. I wanted to do drafting and design, and I followed that path, and I ultimately ended up doing that along with all the construction stuff and everything like that. But I wouldn't call myself a tradie in any way. But
Yeah.
that generation, like our where we're at coming in here, we got lucky where that wasn't a necessity, nor
Yep.
everyone thought it was a necessity, and now it's becoming like people are so in demand for BIM now that
Yes.
if you have any kind of experience with like your hands doing anything, you're immediately getting hired over the person who came out of school,
Oh,
unless you're
yeah.
going for like coordinator or construction management.
Right.
But that's crazy.
We had Knight join us, and he was from the field. He kind of did a little bit of the like survey layout and stuff like that for Big GC down in California, and we kind of gave him opportunity. We were like, hey, there's this VDC coordinator position. You just learn Revit is pretty much all we asked for him, but he just taken it and ran with it because his experience out in the field just applies so much better versus someone like me who had to like learn off of drawings what an embed was, things like that, where if you have that information and skill and experience from being in the field, it's not something I don't think you can learn without doing. And if you do, it takes a while, struggle through that. And for me, my logic of what things are in the model are different than what I feel like people that come from the field see.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I remember there was an experience where I was putting it was like large exhaust, it was pipe, and running against the wall with clamps and stuff. And me thinking I'm making it nice and neat, they're like, how am I going to get my hand between there and tighten that down? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. If I would have saw one of those brackets or installed one before, that's that knowledge that, you have already. Which, kind of goes into another point, getting into trades, that trade knowledge is diminishing, where it's like these people
Yeah.
who know that stuff are getting old and ready to retire, and there's no one new coming in for them to train now. There was a little online, debate on one of my chats about this, because they were like, well, it's not made for the old person to train the new person. You're supposed to go to school for that. I'm like, yeah, well, that's plumbing by a book. If we told you to read a book and do Revit, and then we put you down in front of a place and told you to run pipe or conduit, you'd be lost, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing. I very much think that what we do is a trade.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing. how does that person know that he has to buy this pair of snips because it has this little thing on it that helps you with that thing instead of the the $10 one from Home Depot, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of knowledge that's going to be missing, and it's going to be it's going to take some time to build that back up.
Right. I guess I have a little bit of a cheat code because my dad's superintendent, been in construction for 40 years. So when I run into things like that, like I can resource him in. But just the knowledge that he's been able to gain from doing construction for 40 years out there in the field, like I don't know if I can compare. And if I do, I'm probably using ChatGPT to give me some answers.
We're all using ChatGPT. That's not a secret. When was the moment where you were like, yeah, I want to do BIM? Did you ever have like for me, instance, it was 3D modeling in general. I wasn't doing any kind of construction. It was all mechanical or like 3D modeling and 3D printing. And for me is when those combined. So I was doing 3D modeling and stuff and 3D printing, and that was really cool. And then I got that modular job, which kind of put manufacturing and construction together on a major scale. And to me, I'm like, okay, this is construction I can get behind. I never wanted to do construction because I hated fractions, and that's the legit reason I never wanted to do construction. It's so stupid, but I was a decimal guy. But then I got into it, and I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Yeah, fabrication, making every part and piece fit exactly as it needs to, getting it pre-cut and putting it together. Like I was built for this, That's that moment where I felt like that. Did you ever have a moment like that at all?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like it kind of like evolved over time. I was one of those girls growing up that played Sims and wanted to make things pretty by building houses and like that. That's all I cared about. So as I got older, I remember seeing this like SketchUp for the first time. I was like, oh, this is like a real life Sims kind of. I mean, for the part that I cared about it anyways. And then it was probably that moment when they asked me to do a quantity takeoff where I drew it in the model space versus whatever other, I mean, we must have been using Bluebeam or something like that, but I just felt like I wanted to model it. And then when I met the team of people at Lewis that were doing BIM back then, and I don't think VDC was really a term when I first started.
BIM was barely a term.
Yeah. I was like, this just makes sense. Like, why aren't you using computers to give you this information? Or why aren't you using like software like this to give you the information? Right. And it's like, oh, you could click on it and it's going to tell you how long that wall is. And so it was just kind of like, oh, this just makes sense. I don't remember having like an epiphany moment or anything like that, but it was just like, why wouldn't you do this? So it's hard for me to relate to the people that have done construction way before BIM was even a thing. Like, to me, I'm like,
what do you mean? Just take a takeoff.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Make a schedule.
I walk around, I look at buildings, and like, I know that they didn't use BIM on it before, and it amazes me that they're built.
I've heard that a lot, that it's even like I knew the process, like state submittals and that whole process. I mean, you submitted to Washington State. It's all got to be printed out in an envelope and mailed to them in one mailbox that's off like this one, like that's the address you have to go to. Yeah. And then some guy has to, thumb through it. When are we going to get past that stage where that's not needed? Can I just submit a version of a model and say, yeah, this is the version of building, and then anything after that is an update? Like, when is that going to happen? I get a little passionate about these things. Sorry.
We all do. We all know the pain.
We all have everything. I forgot where I was going with this, but basically, yeah, the technology that we have today was always like, well, it's so crazy. Why are we not using it? Like, why isn't everyone doing this?
Yeah.
In full disclosure, when I first learned Revit, it was Revit 2013. I spent like half a semester in it, and I never wanted to touch it again. I was like, nope, not for me. I was SolidWorks and Inventor only. But it's funny how everything came full circle. And I remember getting sit down. The boss was like, "Hey, can you get everyone in Revit?" I'm like, "I have like a half a semester in it in 2013. It's like 2018 now." "Yeah, but could you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, give me 2 weeks." That
That's
was like,
impressive.
well, easy there. From what I learned then to now, it was a little hairy, but we got it done. It was a very, very, very slow transition for like, hey, let's build the walls in Revit and do everything else in AutoCAD. Let's bring the floors and everything in now, and let's do everything else in AutoCAD. Yeah, that was my process, which was horrible, and I definitely learned a lot from that one process. But
Yeah, that
I
sounds
enjoy setting that up.
very painful. I started I started SketchUp, but right after that was Revit, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, and in my SketchUp class, they used to say Revit is so hard, like so hard. And but I felt like Revit was easier than SketchUp just because of all like how you have things preloaded. I mean, I feel like drawing a wall and a floor plan's easier in Revit than in SketchUp. But I never touched AutoCAD to
Yeah.
draw.
Okay, so you skipped that one.
I skipped that
Um,
pain. Yeah.
I remember actually just recently I had Sims 4 open because I wanted to challenge myself and take one of them and model it in Revit. And then when you build a wall in The Sims, and all you gamers out there can listen to this, you click the wall button and you drag your arrow from one point to the other, and you guys have grid lines that snap to it in The Sims, right? Revit has grid lines that it snaps to. When you build a wall, you select the wall and you drag it across. It's verbatim the exact same step. And I just tell people, yeah, we just do adult Sims.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's all we do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They must have been influenced, whoever kind of built Revit. I can imagine in some way with Sims, or maybe it's just the way that the background software and coding they have kind of
Well,
forced them down that
yeah.
path.
And it's funny, like you were talking about when you wanted to make things pretty and stuff, and you were in Sims making everything look nice, right? There are legit companies that use Revit just to make things look pretty. There's interior design companies that just take models
Yeah.
and do interior design. There's custom casework. I'm working with a casework company right now. There's a custom casework company that's getting built out just to make casework, like just cabinets and built-ins and stuff to make it look nice. And then they
Wow.
take that entire design from Revit and make floor plans from it and export drawings from it and custom families, and it can get really in depth. So if like maybe construction's not your thing and you want to make things look pretty, get into interior design.
Yeah. I
And yeah, go ahead.
There's a lot of women and girls who feel intrigued about interior design. I mean, I think that's like kind of a common thing. I was talking to some other people and they were like, yeah, I was interested in interior design. I feel like a lot of those people ended up being like real estate agents, or at least the girls that I grew up with. But it is cool to see that there's just more opportunity outside of just your typical construction architecture roles. And, now I see like cabinet companies using, or sorry, not
Mm-hmm.
cabinet, the slabs on your countertops,
There you go.
doing scans and then bringing that in and then getting precise measurements and stuff like that. I think that's so cool. I think that's
Yeah,
broadening the, I don't know if industry or skill set
I think
for
so. I
construction
think like
tools.
all of this started with just drafting design. It was all
Yeah.
drafting design. I think I was one of the last classes at the college to do hand drafting, which, you know, power to the people that did it way before me because they're incredible. I could
Yeah.
draw a straight line with a ruler if I wanted to, and then AutoCAD and all that stuff. And everyone's like, "Oh, that's construction. That's um, computer aided drafting. Drafting is construction." Well, now it's gotten so vast that Revit is just one of the many tools, right?
Hmm.
There's Format, which I talked to someone today, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm teaching my kid Format because it's so easy to do. It's like SketchUp, right? It's push and pull and extrudes." That's
Hmm.
what I learned first with SolidWorks. There's programs like Blender and 3ds Max and Unity and Unreal. These are all free gaming softwares that
Hmm.
are utilized in spaces like construction or on-road design or animation.
Hmm.
Twinmotion. You like
Yeah.
taking pictures? Twinmotion is this absolutely incredible Unreal plugin that utilizes your Revit model, and you can actually I like photography. but you can take your photo settings, your lens lengths and your ISOs and where your focal point is, and you can get really close to items and like in ways you couldn't do in real life, and take those photos and have beautiful shots and set up your surroundings. And it's a whole entire different thing now that this industry has gone from just drafting design to this is design technology. I don't know, digital. I call it digital construction, but that's really design technology, right?
Yeah. Yeah, everything else is going digital. I mean, you see now when you're like looking at a piece of furniture on Amazon, and there's essentially a model of it that you're able to bring in and see on your phone. I mean, there's just going to be more and more things that digitize over time. And so I've been watching, or we just finished watching Game of Thrones, and the intro for that really just makes me think about like, that had to have been modeled, and then they used some other software. I mean, there's just so many different avenues of being able to use this digital authoring softwares that you can go down.
I think my first ever exposure to like any kind of reality capture was from a YouTube channel called Corridor Digital. And they're a VFX artist firm, but the one kid on there takes a drone and he flies it over a ghost town, and he takes it and photogrammetries the model and gets a full surface layout. I mean, this is like a couple years ago, and I'm like, that is amazing. How is this possible? And then you find out there's something called Mozilla Hubs, right, where you can actually walk through this digital space that he scanned, and then you're just like, that was my first experience ever. I'm just like, wait, I can go to a website and see this right now. I'm like, that's really cool. How could I use that today? And then next thing you know, I'm going to the reality capture conferences, you know, Matt Bird, I'm working with USIVD, I'm on a committee now. It's like, I don't do scanning, by the way. I just go to these things and I just get struck by awe, just what they do. And
I went to the RCN too with Matt Bird, and I feel like we use scanning. We had a scanner, we did all that, and then I went to that conference, I was like, whoa, metaverse, you know, like what is... There's so many more levels to this once you kind of get into the weeds of things, but it's so fascinating to see how endless. Like, were you there when ExxonMobil did their presentation?
With the VR and everything?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was
that
killer.
Was like...
So, for you guys who can't see and are listening or you're watching...
Sorry, I forgot
ExxonMobil made a presentation about how they're training their teams in, was it AR or VR? I think it's AR.
Yeah, I think it's AR.
So basically they'd go up to the machine and would tell them which button to hit when and how to push it, and then the next steps and like safety precautions. So their team are wearing goggles on site, getting trained on site with the equipment with instructions, which is like next level Ready Player One kind of stuff, and that was 3 years ago.
Yeah,
that was 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's only gotten so much better since then. I mean, Disney just gave Unreal or NVIDIA billions of dollars to create the Disney metaverse to be able to like walk through in interactions and AR and stuff, and like that's scary to think about in some ways because there's some sort of AI in there. And AI is only getting scarier, but it's never, I don't think AI is ever going to replace, it's only going to enhance, until they become self-aware and Terminator is a thing. And
kill
my ChatGPT, I always say thank you and please. I'm just next to it all the time.
That's very smart. That's very smart.
Want to be on the good side. So you're part of Women in Tech. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So it actually all started with the Reality Capture Network conference. So Matt, I had applied to speak, and I spoke, so I got approved. And then he's like, "Do you want to be on this women's panel?" I was like, "Sure, that'd be great." So I felt moved to kind of really jump into that community, and so I ended up getting Revizto to sponsor a dinner at that conference with all the ladies. So we kind of got an opportunity to group up together and talk about our careers and what we're experiencing at the conference. And it was just like such a great moment to be a part of because it wasn't just VDC managers. There was just a mixture of women that came together, and I really felt like I could connect to people that got the same pains and are experiencing the same things or have solutions to help solve those pains. And so since then, I've just been kind of really tapping into that network of other women. And I did Women in BIM, and I was a mentor and met Madison Galloway. She was at Hor Construction. And we just kind of were able to take on such a like rewarding relationship with another woman that gets the same things that I'm going through. And since then, I just started a chapter of Women in Construction Tech Pacific Northwest. Since I'll be in Idaho and my career's kind of based out of Seattle, I was like, let's just broaden this region so we can include, East Side Washington and Greater Idaho too. So I just felt like there's so much need for that, for more connection. And so I'm hoping maybe we'll come back to RCN this year or something like that. But what I like about Women in Construction Tech that's different than Women in BIM, which, Abnara is a great part of, is that it kind of shows you a different career path or options for career paths, because it's construction tech is something that we use, and it's kind of a new term. I feel like, I don't know. I didn't remember hearing construction tech being
it's a new thing.
Okay. And
construction tech is when we got batteries and drills, and I was like, oh, that's cool. No, it's a new thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's just really taken off, and because you get to be a VDC manager and you're like, what's next? And I think it's cool to be able to connect with women who are a part of venture capitalists who are on the other side of software, where they're using their resources to, invest in more construction technology software. Or you meet with like women that are on the developer side. So it's just kind of broadening that industry and community of women that you can connect with. And the founders of it, one of the women, she works for Hilti, and then the other one works for venture capitalists. So it's just kind of a cool mix of different women that you wouldn't be able to just meet off the street or at a, Seattle Revit users group or something like that.
That's awesome. I think this industry has changed so much in the past couple of years. It's no longer like it is a male-dominated field right now, but it should no longer be considered that. It is a gender-neutral field, whether you are woman, boy, whatever. Getting into this industry, you can do anything that anyone else can because we're computer savvy. That's what it is. It's computer heavy and tech savvy. And if you're into construction or you have a passion about something, like I have a passion about teaching and education. I really want to teach and educate the next generation. Yes. So I started Strive. And I want to get people jobs. And then that's where that's born from. Like, I'm sure you have a passion of probably being a leader, and you want to go out there and teach these girls that, like, hey, you can do this, right? What I've been hearing a lot, though, is like anywhere, if you want to get anywhere in this, you got to have a lot of piss and vinegar. That's what I've been told. Is a lot of gumption to go out there and be the leader and stand out and take those roles up. We still need those other people to do the work and all that stuff as well. So yeah, VDC manager, I mean, if you're a manager of any kind, you're almost not really touching the product as much, and you miss it and you get back into it at home. You're like, oh, I really like doing this, or you get back into Sims or something like that, and you end up following your own path, right? What's one of your passions in this industry that you really like, can get behind and get all excited about?
Yeah, I feel like it is like aligned to what you just said, where I really want to educate. I feel connected to women, right, and especially mothers. Being a new mom, I feel like it has changed me so much in my connection to other women in a different way, especially like where I feel like I want to tap into community more. And And part of being a mom is coordination, schedule, finances, all these things that create the same or using the same skills that a VDC coordinator would.
Hmm.
And so I would love to like continue to introduce more people into that. And my favorite thing to do is convert people from other roles into being coordinators.
Hmm.
Because all
That's
that
awesome.
experience applies with different skills. You just have to learn new specialties. And it, to me, I think about these are just things and objects and elements, and you click on it, it tells you what it is. And I don't have to have all the answers of how to solve the problem. I just mostly, point it out. And that's a little bit fun for me sometimes. I'll be there to support you and help try to give you the solution so you don't have to, spin your wheels doing it. But I just think it's such a great job for women to do. I've been doing it remotely, and as a mom, like saving 3 hours of commuting time is a big deal. And so I think it's a great flex career that can allow you to still have a lot more involvement in your child's life. And not saying that women who don't do that don't have that. It's definitely more of an obstacle. You have less time when you have to commute into the office.
Hmm.
Um, and for me, that's what I'm passionate about. I want to see other women and mothers learn about this because, you join any women's Facebook group. I mean, you probably know this because you're not a woman, but mothers are always looking for, like, are there work from home jobs that I can do that are flexible? And I would like to provide a solution for that.
So it is so easy to get into BIM.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, take a intro to Revit course on anything.
Yep.
If you're in college or you have some kind of school email address, you get it for free for 4 years. I milked that cow when I first found out. Um, you can practice your skills if you're have no college degree and all you know is the software, and you've done the trainings online and you've watched podcasts and you've watched trainings and you've done books and stuff. You go find a company who wants to hire you, and they would gladly hire you because one, you'd be less expensive than the guy coming out of
Yep.
college. You're more
Mhm.
experienced, and you're self-determined to learn the software.
Mhm.
It's kind of like going into the trades. Like, you can go be a plumber anytime. You just got to go find the people that want to take the time to train you or educate you and bring you up. They'd rather do that than take someone who has training and try and teach them their training.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone has their own standards. Yep.
Yeah, I would much rather take hire on someone to give them an opportunity, and those have been my last two hires. Was like a woman who came from something similar. She worked for like a smaller, not construction company, but kind of smaller than that. I don't remember exactly what
Mm-hmm.
it was. And then taking someone that came from the field, I was like, we're gonna make you into BIM coordinators. We're gonna teach you Revit. I just told everyone to do VDCI. I don't know if you've heard of them as they do VDC training, Revit classes,
Okay.
Revit 101 and certificates.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I was able to learn my software too originally when they gave me that opportunity. So as a manager, I feel like that's a goal of mine is to give someone else that opportunity because they took a gamble on me, but um, it is an opportunity that has changed my life so much, and I just want to repay that back to other people who deserve opportunities.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm right there with you. Currently trying to develop some training classes that are taught by industry professionals. So you want to teach coordination because you've done coordination and you want to help out, take it, like, make the course, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm really passionate about too is if you're going to get trained on software, get trained by someone who's done the software. Don't get trained by the software companies.
Yeah.
And this is where I get canceled by Autodesk and everyone else out there. But like the people, just like getting trained by a trade guy, right?
Yeah.
If you follow the book, yeah, you'll be able to get by. But it's that guy who's going to tell you like, hey, just so you know, if you did this one little different way, it'll save you a lifetime of like headaches and stuff like that, right? So that's the training I want to put out there and get people in there so they can start their careers quicker and understand that like it's it's so easy and it's so rewarding. To me, it's so
Yes,
rewarding to do
I'm with
this.
you.
It's
Yeah,
it, the amount of people and networking and stuff I've seen just in the past couple of years that I've really gotten into it. It's been incredible. I mean, talking to everyone from Simon Dilhaus from Switzerland, you know,
wow.
uh, there's Roy Kaminsky, who's part of a whole manufacturing. He's out there flying to China and talking in Sweden and stuff like that. Awesome dude. Down to like Heath, who runs his own VDC company. He was just on the podcast, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just this guy from Kansas, being able to do this." You know, it's
Yeah,
and he started out of a second bedroom, him and another guy, and now they're this massive thing. I just think, the world is full of opportunities for building. Construction's never going to go away, and the tech is
right.
only going to get better. So get in on the ground floor, start early.
Yeah, and the kids these days, you don't have to teach them how to use a phone. Like we're still having to teach the people in our field like how to use phones and tablets, and I had to teach my dad copy and paste like not that long ago, it felt like. So the kids that are growing up in, my children's generation, they have such a higher level of natural skill or just skill that they've gained over time. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
where are they going to take this? That's going to put me to shame um, in a short amount of time.
Right. Right. They're gonna be taking pictures of blinking with their eyes or something. Like, I'm not putting anything in my eyes. I'm good. Yeah, yeah. It's
Like
gonna be.
imagine growing up with AI.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I've heard there's gonna be robots in homes in like the next 10 to 15 years. Like, here's the thing. How much would you pay to never do the dishes again? If all you did was drop your dish off in a sink and they came out the dishwasher clean, already put away, how much would you pay for that?
man,
That's the yeah. See, I think that's the stuff that's going to come out first. Is that self-serving? Like, man, if I never had to do dishes ever again, am I paying as much as I would pay for the car out front? Probably. I hate dishes.
those Roombas are expensive.
Yes, yes. And you know what? Mine's a great. I never vacuum. It's awesome.
See, I
My
need to
wife would
get
tell me to
one.
vacuum. Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
and there's definitely, some like a counterculture to technology, right? And that's something I kind of fight with is that I make income because I love technology and I'm great at it, but I don't want my children spending too much time in front of technology
yeah.
and it's like this big I want to be a homesteader or but I have a job in construction technology. Like they feel like they
Yeah.
conflict so much.
Every other day, my wife's like, "Let's just buy a van and sell everything, and then you can work from your computer in the van, but we'll just go wherever." I was like, "How about we just trash it all and we just live in the woods forever?" Yeah.
Yeah, go
I'm in
off
this.
grid.
Yeah, never speak Alaska, whatever. Just never speak to anyone again. Yeah, no, I think we all fight with that,
Yeah,
especially when there's a lot of the shows on TV out there that are like, "Look at all of us homesteading and milking our own cows and eating our own chickens and whatever that is."
yeah. Right.
Um,
It's just such a tool. You just like I want my child to grow up being really great at it so that they have a lot of opportunities for whatever. And I just the
Well, what if you taught them The Sims or Form It first? Then how would you feel about it?
I
Uh
would love
huh.
it. I would love it. I know my daughter, she's 3, she's about to turn 3. She'll sit next to me and she'll be like, show me these trees because there's trees randomly in a Revit model. Um,
Oh yeah, pull up Twin Motion next time.
yeah, it was actually Revizto, but my team's been using Twinmotion and Unreal Engine lately, and I'm like,
Hmm.
whoa. And they're
Oh,
having
it's so much
fun
fun.
doing it. That's why I love this period of time is it's been really fun because the industry has slowed down, construction has slowed down a little bit, so we're not like in the heat of coordination for 5 projects at the same time. So we've been able
Hmm.
to do the fun part of it, which is that creative sense that a lot of us have that, you don't get necessarily in the same way that when you're running coordination.
Well, okay. So last question here.
Okay.
What would you say to the girls and the women out there that are thinking about it, but they're concerned about coming into this field, being male dominated and stuff like that? Because that is a real concern. What would you say to them to convince them, like, no, it's okay, come on in?
Yeah, no, I'd say at this point in time, you have an upper hand coming into the industry being a woman. Every company has DEI measures and they're trying to get more women in construction. And so they're going to give you more opportunity and maybe pass you up from like a male counterpart. So you have an advantage to begin with. And I'd also say that it's a highly creative and or it can be very creative. It can be you can use a lot of problem solving skills, but like these days, I don't feel like women get treated like what you hear in the horror stories of 90s construction job sites. Like people are I've never had an issue with that, with inappropriate discussion around me. And so have no fear. Jump in 2 feet forward, go for it, and it's going to open up so many avenues for you.
And there's so many support groups, and
Yes, yes.
there's definitely people to reach out to. I remember instance my wife was thinking about it. I reached out to Abarna, and she was like, "Yeah, any questions, just let her know and have her connect with me, and we'll talk." And it was great to have that, to entrust her to talk to someone about it if she's interested. So that's
Hmm.
great.
Yeah,
Morgan,
definitely
thank you
reach
for
out to
coming
another
on.
woman. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Morgan, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it very much. This has been awesome
Yeah,
nerding
it's been
out.
fun.
Um, if you guys like what you're listening to, please like, subscribe, comment, post, share, and really get the word out there. We're trying to change an industry now. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.